let's have a great week, everybody. It's officially, although we never stopped here at ForexAnalytix, it's officially hunting season as the adults have most likely returned from the Hamptons. It's hunting season, open season for pips. How's everyone doing? Although it's going to be very difficult to top the great trading, fading action on the NFP from Friday. What beautiful preparation there was prior to the NFP and then right after the NFP. Looking to fade dollar weakness. Blake did it with yen in Canada. Then Grega came on and said, I don't think the euro's going to make a new high, and it failed within 15 minutes. A couple of hours, he had 100 pips. So I think NFPs are going to become a favorite day for people to be here. What do you think, Face? Also, t-shirt contest. Get your entries in. Tweet to @ForexAnalytix. No, James, and I also hate to disappoint you. For guys that used to be able to bench 315 for 10 reps and then stopped, there are no Manziers. These are t-shirts. Those of you who are familiar with Seinfeld, Kramer also called them bros instead of bras. So get your entry in. My guess, even though I'm not qualified, is I believe 117.58 for the euro. So let's go to work. Okay, let's go to work. Warriors. Last week I showed Nick's view of euro yen. It's a bearish shark. Okay, and then I pounded the table on it again Friday after the NFP, and then we had a big risk off move yesterday because Kim is creating 6.1, 6.3 Richter scale earthquakes in his country, and we know what's causing those. So a lot of fear in the market. In fact, I also want to remind everyone that when Greg was showing indexes on Friday, he said he wouldn't buy it. He'd look for a pullback to buy. We're starting to get that pullback. I concur with him. There still could be another new high in the S&Ps, but I don't believe this week's low is in yet. But just wanted to show Nick's look at the shark. And the target I talked about was about 29.60, which was her key support level. If we start taking that out, she has big targets down here, all the way down here. So let's look at some of the live markets now. For those of you who are not subscribers, it's a big edge for me any day of the week to look at harmonic work. If I want to also see what's Greg is saying on the euro yen, I can just go to Elliott. So let's see where Greg's head's at on this. Okay, so he was looking for a pullback 4 and then a new high up here. Let's see, that was August 21st, so that's kind of old. So we got that new high. We took this out. Or maybe we haven't taken it out. So Greg is looking for a new high here. So seeing that, if you took the 3 drive trade, should be booking it down here. It went a little lower, went to this 29.64 exactly. So you should be covering those up now because I don't fade Grega. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't fade Grega. I wouldn't fade Nick. I wouldn't fade Blake. I wouldn't fade Volgi. I wouldn't fade Stelios. In fact, I want to be Stelios. The island hopper showed us all a beautiful picture. We could just see his toes and sitting on the Aegean Sea, living large. So everyone with me on euro yen now? Give me a Y if you're with me. If you took the trade, you book it. I know Hardiano took advantage of the guppy, which really got slammed yesterday. I saw his tweet. And here, I just want to show you the pound. I wouldn't short it yet. EG still has a bit of a downward bias, but we could be setting up for a 3 drive up here. 1, 2, up around 3rd, a little over the big round number here. Everyone see that? I wouldn't short it here. And also a key point, it's not that just that it gets there, it's how it gets there. So if it gets there to 30.51 and the RSI is taking out these levels right here, you know, then you have to wait for non-confirmations to develop there. Okay, here's the S&P. Greg has said it was up here. We went right to 88.6. Isn't that something? I believe Nick told me that the S&P is up 88.6. So that's what we did. Almost too close for it not to be able to take out these highs, but there might be at least one more scalp. Maybe this is A. You look for a sell here and pull back towards 24.53. This was a breakout. So maybe we get 24.53 before we head up towards 2,500, which is what a lot of people are looking for. Okay, a 3 driver in SPX. What time frame, Morrow? And don't fade Luca either. All right, daily. Oh yeah, good eye. Where'd you learn that? So you're saying this is it? The 1, 2, 3 up here? Okay. All right. And Luca's talking about pound kiwi. I'll go to it because I've watched Luca. That's part of the advantage of being in a community. You know, I have a saying, I tweet it a lot. And if you want to become good, surround yourself by people better than you, and you'll rise to their level, right? So I've watched Luca's charts for well over a year. So this was the breakout Luca's talking about. This is your daily. We're pulling right back to it right here. Everyone thank Luca for the look and reminding me. Thank you, Luca. Appreciate it. Everyone doing okay? So let's kick ass this week. I believe we have the ECB this week. I know Volgi's in the house, Steve's in the house, and Blake's in the house. Any other questions for me before I turn it over to Blake and Steve? Any questions for me on anything I've said? Don't forget to sign up for a 6-month period if you're not a subscriber now. As Blake made an announcement, he's opening up his Traders Lounge. If you do it today, you get a velvet chair to sit on in the lounge. And after 5 o'clock, he does have happy hours there. We drink all the pips we made during the session. Throw them in the shot glass.
And Steve, and Dale, listen, I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that we're still initiating. We haven't entitled. We're still working on the technicals.
Okay, cool. All right, man.
It's not ready. Yeah, it's going to take us like a few days. Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool, but I just wanted them to know we don't serve alcohol. We only drink our pips.
Okay.
After the close, you know, then at least you could still drive legally if you drink pips, right, guys?
Right. Yeah, that's right. That's correct.
How was your weekend? How was your weekend, Blake? Some good college ball, man.
Yeah, I had Alabama, man. Woo, jeez.
Yeah.
I had a good weekend. I had a headache throughout the weekend. You know, I don't know if you guys. I've wrangled with this like my entire life. It seems like having like a good pillow, and
you got to buy that one that the guy advertises that thinks he invented it. Yeah.
You know, ironically, I've heard that is like a really good pillow, and I have had it on my list of things like to try that. But you know, like we always buy like very expensive pillows, and they work for like you know, a couple months, and then you know. Anyway, so I felt like I slept in a handstand position. So on Saturday night, I guess, and I've had a headache for a couple of days. But other than the little things, at least I have a pillow to sleep on. No, I had a great weekend. You know, we had a lot of family time this weekend, so it was good. And hope everybody had a nice long weekend as well. You know, the the market has been, there was a lot of volatility yesterday, and let me go over to my screen here. Oh, and before I do this, actually, I will mention, because I feel the need to, that if you guys haven't guessed the closing price, and now this is Bloomberg's closing price, so whatever Bloomberg has reported at 4:59 p.m. Eastern, they'll have a closing price right on Friday afternoon or Friday evening for a lot of you guys, and maybe Saturday morning for some of you. Anyway, if you tweet at ForexAnalytix, and you could win one of these two shirts. The no FOMO. I had somebody ask me this weekend, what does FOMO mean? I'm like, fear of missing out. But it's actually a conversation starter, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And then the chief risk manager shirt. And
good for you single guys to wear to a bar.
Oh yeah,
What
exactly.
do you think?
And I have. Go ahead.
Personal advice: a little dog or a baby is even a better conversation starter.
Yes. Yeah. I don't.
Steve knows all the tricks.
Borrow somebody's baby.
Yes.
I can lend my baby to anybody. That's
there you go. But I did want to mention that these T-shirts are by far the most comfortable T-shirts ever. I mean, they are really well made, and it's the highest quality you can get. And our first batch was like a dark gray. These are black, and they're extremely comfortable. I mean, they breathe, and everybody loves them. So you'll be very impressed with them. Anyway, so make sure you tweet to @ForexAnalytix by the end of this webinar, because if you tweet after the end of this webinar, no deal. You are disqualified. So it has to be by the end of this webinar. You have to tweet what you think Friday's closing price of the euro is going to be. All right, with moving on, just a couple of things. So I actually, I've been kind of trading all over the map, but one of the things that really irritated me this weekend is I'm short the euro pound. And man, this thing had a nice bounce over the weekend. Although we challenged the underside of this trend line yesterday, and I put out a trend line pivot, which was right on the underside of this trend line as we were up there yesterday at 92.20. Yeah, you can see 92.20, 92.15, 92.23, and it worked perfect and had a great rejection. But I've been sitting in this euro pound. I mean, I've been sitting personally short. So I would say those people that are ForexAnalytix subscribers that were online yesterday, you guys are in a much better position than I am price wise, because I think I'm short. My average is like just below 92 pence, and so you guys probably got a much better price now. But anyway, you could see it's starting to roll over again. The construction PMI numbers on yesterday morning came in a little weaker than expected. Plus, you have a little risk off. So when the market's risk off, I think people are a little bit more hesitant to hold the cable. That's kind of been more of the mantra. It's like the euro dollar almost has a safe haven bid, and we saw that yesterday. After all the warnings from I think it was General Mattis, General Mad Dog Mattis, saying we'll come with military force or whatever his wording was. The euro actually spiked up yesterday, or at the open Sunday at the open, and we saw the euro actually come under some buying pressure, but and that turned the euro pound turned it higher, and it challenged the underside of that trend line. But the services PMI out of the UK came in basically in line, and that's the one thing I think I have to mention regarding like the Brexit. I mean, Brexit is really weighing on sentiment of everybody in the UK, and it's expected too. I mean, I would expect business sentiment is really starting to slow. Economic sentiment is probably starting to slow and weaken and sour a little bit. So I think the numbers are expected to be bad just in general. So with the cable, this morning, the data came in and it wasn't, it wasn't a disaster, and we spiked down this morning and then came right back up again. So the pound, could still recover a little bit, even if the data is, not horrendous. And we have a lot of data coming out of the UK this week. I mean, we got services PMI today. I think on Thursday. No, I guess Thursday or Friday. Friday, manufacturing production comes out. I guess that's it. Good trades balance and some construction and outputs and stuff. I thought that data was coming in on Thursday. Oh, and we have a house price index actually on Thursday. So the UK still got some data to go this week, and and remember, we are at a time where you have a lot of traders that are sitting, getting in front of their computers, sitting back at their desks, kind of, looking at the lay of the land, seeing what they want to do. And there's, some, they're trying to figure out what their plan of action is. Volatility, or volumes usually pick up and come back throughout the course of this week and into next week. So we should be in pretty much full throttle liquidity wise, sometime next week or so. A couple other things that I'm still really paying close attention to, and let me just double check one thing. Do we have data coming out this morning? Well, I guess we got factory orders and nothing huge that's coming out today. But one of the other things that I want to point out is this dollar Canadian. This dollar Canadian is really close to trendline support. This is a multi-year trend line. I picked up some dollar Canadian down here on last week, but it really hasn't bounced yet. And what we're doing is we're actually facing, and you can see here on a 4-hour chart, we're facing previous support. It's acting as current resistance, and that it's still very apparent. The dollar Canadian, in order for me personally to feel better about being long the dollar Canadian, and for me to add to my position, I'm really waiting for a break above like 124.40. So you can see on the ForexAnalytix platform here, this 124.37, that's resistance, and that's key. We once that's breached, ForexAnalytix will shoot out for those of you that have the app, you'll get a push notification. You'll get a notification here on your desktop as well. But that is really the price that I'm looking for us to get above, which is basically these lows right here. You can see these lows right through here. And so, once we can get above here, I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable about being long the dollar Canadian. I actually do want to add to the position, but I'm trying to be patient. Also, I wanted to point out the U.S. dollar Mexican peso. This thing's holding up relatively well, and NAFTA talks have wrapped up. No real new, for the first round. There's no real big development, as far as NAFTA goes. We haven't seen any, shocking news like the U.S. is going to be stepping away from the conversation or anything like that. Yeah, which if that was the case, you'd probably see the peso and the Canadian get destroyed in that type of situation. But the U.S. dollar Mexican peso is actually holding up quite well, and it's outside of this channel. And so I'm really looking for a move above 18. If we get above 18, I think it's going to be extremely bullish for the U.S. dollar Mexican peso. So we should keep an eye on it. I think it's it is set up for a move higher if the dollar should show some strength. But the dollar has been a little it's been a little messy, and the dollar index has just had a very difficult time. I mean, the dollar index really is still struggling, and in order to get the dollar to move, I think we have to take out this downtrend line here, and once that happens, then we get maybe a back above 93 in the dollar index, so somewhere around here. I think the dollar will then at that point in time be free to squeeze a little if we can do it. And that's a big question, is if. It's not like when, it's if. I mean, the dollar still looks very gross. I mean, if you look at the dollar yen, we talked about this on Friday, and you were naming off, like, yeah, on Friday during NFP, I forget where I made my money. Somebody said, yeah, I think you were buying at 50 pips higher on Friday. I might have been buying it, down here. I think I picked it up on this dip, right? I think on Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah.
I got in and got out. I think I made like 12 pips, and I focused my attention more on the dollar Canadian that, on Friday. But the dollar yen, we had pointed it to come down here and retest this trend line, and that's what we've done. We've really come down to the 618. You can see the here's your fib, right? I'm just dangling it around. We've come down to like the 109.20 level, and we've paused here. Now it should bounce. I mean, I would think if the dollar is going to bounce, it's going to do it around here. But the fact of the matter is the dollar is still trading really heavy, and I'm not long the dollar yen, by the way. I'm not. I'm just saying if it should bounce, I mean, if it's going to bounce, it's going to bounce around here. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not really, I'm not really in the camp that we are ready to bounce. We haven't done so yet, and it's definitely struggling, and the dollar's having some issues. So it's not like it looks like it's ready to bounce just yet. But if it's going to, it's going to bounce somewhere around here, I would suspect. But I think today is going to be one of those days where you have to observe, be patient, wait for the good setups. The market's, like I said, a little choppy here. The euro, I kind of actually want to be short the euro dollar, but I'm not. I want to short it, but I don't see that opportunity yet. I think if it can rally back up to the 618, up at 119.70, that might be a great place to be on the short side. But again, I'm just kind of waiting here. I'm not really too sure exactly what to do. I'm not overly excited about doing anything at the moment. So, but that's like my thought process with the dollar. And I know Steve probably has some other ideas regarding crosses that I want to let him talk about. But as far as the dollar goes, I mean, it's choppy. I mean, the Aussie's stronger. The Kiwi's back at the neckline here at the head and shoulder pattern. It should, show failure somewhere around here. And like I said, the dollar Canadian's pretty heavy. This dollar Canadian's so heavy. I'm, a little nervous about.
Look how much better the peso's acting compared to Canada and the Dixie. I was pointing it out to a trader buddy of mine last week that Canada was making new lows and the peso had not made new lows. It was showing relative strength. It seems to be the leader right here, don't you think? Or any kind of dollar correction, because it didn't make new lows when the dollar made new lows.
Yeah, it's
it looks the healthiest in my opinion compared to other dollar pairs.
Yeah, and you got to look for those leaders. You got to look for those leaders and see. Hold on.
Sure.
You got to look for those leaders and then let them develop and keep an eye on them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, but hey, I'm gonna pass it over to Steve so I can get ready for the open. And Steve, are you here?
Yes, mate, I am.
Hey. So hopefully, and Steve, thank you for doing a lot of the updates yesterday. I know it's holiday and there wasn't a whole lot going on, but you did a few updates out there. And how about those cryptocurrencies? I'm not sure if Nick's around, but man, we had this head and shoulder pattern in Bitcoin, and it completed. Look at that, to a T.
You're absolutely right about that, and you actually pinpointed that. Before that, I was actually viewing this chart. It's one of the things I wanted to show. I was viewing this chart as an ending diagonal, which broke before the neckline broke, and then we also got the head and shoulders, which broke. And as you said, we already completed the target. So for me, the spike low we had at 3,600. from an early way perspective as well is a critical level. So as long as we actually stay above that, I think that somebody remaining constructive is the way to go. A break below there, on the other hand, will be a warning for at least a bigger correction, and that's what I'm seeing. So I was seeing like this ascending wedge. Then on the 4-hour chart, as you pinpointed, Blake, there we had the neckline of a head and shoulders formation, and which, as you said, we completed. And I think, as I said, this is the level I'm watching, 3,600. As long as we remain above there, I think it's it should remain well bid. Ethereum as well. I was tracking this ascending channel, and we failed like before reaching the high once again, and it actually broke below it, intraday. But as long as we're holding this 310 level on a closing basis, I think the bulls we will remain in command of the price action here.
Hey Steve, how about CAD Yen? It didn't quite make a new high last Friday when everything was blowing. I think it failed from either 78 or 88%.
Yeah, and here
got clobbered yesterday.
Yeah, it did, but something. I was viewing this as a possible, flag, and as long as we broke above it and so decisively, now my main scenario is that we're going for new highs. Regardless of the fact, that we got lower yesterday, that this does not look, corrective anymore. I mean, it looked as long as we were grinding higher, holding this.
It could still be a B wave up here though, without and then get a C, couldn't it?
It could. It theoretically still could. But from the view I have from here, I still think a new high.
Okay, that's what makes markets, and I don't like to fade you. So thank you.
Well, no, my pleasure. Now, having to do with the other one, unfortunately, this pattern in play, so I don't forget, got stopped out for 2 pips. I'm still short because, as you remember, I have told you in the past, I very rarely use stop losses. This is one of the reasons, actually. I don't suggest to people to do what I'm doing, but personally, I've told you before in another occasion, I very rarely use stop losses. This is a European, by the way.
Well, okay. Tell people why. What kind of leverage do you use?
I use low leverage.
That's why.
That's
why you can do it.
That's one of the reasons why. Yes.
Okay. Well, that's a great reason to be able to, not have one.
Yeah,
even 100 pip move against you isn't the end of the world.
Yeah, we actually tagged almost to perfection. I mean, we just we just went a few pips above it. We tagged to perfection the 1 = 5 target here, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I still view this, and they told me we had some clients that said that they didn't get stopped out as well. 2 clients actually mentioned that their broker never reported the price above the price that we had as a stop loss. And and they asked our customer support what they should do with that. Personally, for me the setup is still alive, since we got rejected once again from the top of the channel, and I think this is completely overblown, and I think a correction towards at least 162.36 remains a possibility. So it has shown more strength than expected, but I think that the technical basis for that is still there. We just the first rejection was a false one. We got a second one with a shooting star. So we get one shooting star that we actually penetrated through, and now we got another one. But this one, actually, we got an inside day yesterday, which I don't count yesterday because it was a half day. The US was off. Usually, you see stupid price action or anyhow price action that doesn't say anything. Yesterday, for example, we got plenty. I mean, we got a lot of inside days simply because the market does not want to commit. And now you see we're seeing very good follow through. So I'm for whoever didn't get stopped out for these 2 pips, I do believe that there's still a good chance to go to 162.30 or to 160.50, which is, the next area I have in mind before actually, looking higher. 162.30, which is also the breakout level, and this high. So this area that potentially was also a double top potential, because we never actually got rejected for more than 3 days. I think that's a good area to look into taking some profits if you're short, and the reward to risk is still there. I mean, the target is still there, so people might want to check it out. Now, on the other hand, since whenever I cover one of them, let's have a look at the other one as well. Euro-Aussie, on the other hand, gave us the same day, this rejection, but oppositely from the Euro Kiwi, the Euro-Aussie did not penetrate above it, and this is also another signal, this kind of a divergence. So, when both these pairs showed a rejection, one of them did end up making a new high, while the other one, Euro-Aussie, did not. So, we were monitoring this area in general, which, we can even move it a little bit higher because we had that peak. Yeah. So we were monitoring at this area because, we had resistance here, we had resistance here, and actually we never managed to break above it. So, this is also, quite an important rejection here. So which brings the Euro-Aussie back in a wide range. Of course, I even see the possibility of even building an inverted head and shoulders formation here. Some people claim that inverted head and shoulders formations or head and shoulders formations are not continuation patterns, although I've seen them work as continuation patterns as well. So, there's an open debate. I know, for example, that Blake doesn't believe in them as continuation patterns. Personally, I don't mind viewing them as such. So, for example, we might get something like this here. I wouldn't something like this, creating something like that, and then having, a shoulder, a head and the shoulder, not a pretty one. So, for me, for the bull trend, still this 150.50 level remains, extremely critical, because, an actual daily close above it is going to be, a bullish development. But obviously, the last few days we have been showing weakness, which means that for the time being, what we should be mostly looking at is like some supports. Now, the next support is at 148.15, like this low. It was like a low here as well. It was a high there. So, we need what we're gonna, we're gonna see what we're gonna do from there. But as it seems, for the time being, it just wants to move lower. So, let's have a look at it now. Blake briefly talked about the Euro USD. I know he's not looking for a new high just yet. I definitely wasn't looking for a new high when we popped on Friday, because at least I expected like another move lower, and this consolidation is like an inside day, and today we're also having like a very small candle. So, as long as this is the case, I also expect, at least one more push lower to at least test the channel support. But I have to tell you that, this price action definitely doesn't look impulsive. So, yes, I'm inclined to believe, that we're going to move lower from here initially. But I'm still completely unconvinced that, Euro USD is going to roll over and die. If anything, it shows, to be quite resilient. Right? Euro pound also looks good. We had talked about this setup up here. I had actually said that I was going to short it the day that we actually picked, but I wouldn't make a pip simply because we already had in ForexAnalytix a short pattern plane in the Euro pound. So I am short. So I almost top picked that, and I think the confluences we had here was, were great, because as I had said, we had the overthrow here, we had the channel, we had that very nice candle, and then this very nice shooting star candle evolved to become a very powerful evening star formation. So, many factors were telling us here that, the next move is lower, but that doesn't mean that you should remain nimble, because we might be headed to 88.80, which is a target I like. But the first area you should be looking at is this channel, this ascending channel support, which isn't so far away now. I mean, it's like 100 pips lower than where we are. I'm more or less convinced that we're at least going to test that. So there are, another 100 pips to the downside. But I also still don't see like an impulsive move lower here yet. So, let's get to the channel support and, we take it from there. Let's see how that reacts, what happens from there. And then we can talk about, my second target, which is here at the 88.70 level. So, I think the euro pound is looking good as well. Now, since we talked about the euro, we talked about the euro pound. Let's have a look at the pound. The pound did recover from the 128, but I'm still unconvinced about this being a low and simply not an interim low, because you can easily interpret this move as a corrective move, like as a pennant that's going to lead to one more leg, to at least one more leg lower. So as long as this general 130 area is holding, and despite the fact that today we're already registering an outside white candle, which in nature is bullish, I really want to see what's going to happen from from this formation. So I'm
just go into your upper blue line one more time.
It is very likely. It is very likely.
Then you have a 3. If you paid attention to my initial analysis, my trading warrior brother, you'd know it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. It's very likely that we're going to retest it, and then it's more likely than not to push lower at least one more time. So if the euro pound wants to remain on track to be corrective, that means that the euro USD indeed has to produce one more move lower as well. So I'm monitoring all these 3 pairs, because I also care about the interaction. If you remember, and this is, I mean, from an educational perspective, this is a good hint for people that are watching the markets. If you remember, I saved myself from taking a premature euro pound short position, because my thesis in the euro USD and my pound USD was not matching up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I remember it. I brought it up the next day too. You saved yourself almost a couple hundred pips.
Yeah, because when the pieces of the puzzle don't fall together, you have to be skeptical. You have to be skeptical. And very well, and people that are following us, that I'd rather lose some trades, but at least have conviction than anything else. Now, having to do with the Aussie USD, and I really wanted to talk about that before we go into questions. There are several things. I like the Aussie USD since we were consolidating here. I was very clear that even if we pushed one more time lower, my thesis is that we're going for a new high. And we didn't even push one more time lower. And consider that, Dale, given all the geopolitical headlines we had, etc., the Aussie is holding up extremely well for a risk on.
It's trading more with gold than the market.
Yeah, and with copper, to be honest, because very often they're also closely correlated. So already today we are possibly heading for a closing high, for a multi-month closing high, because we are already trading above the last the highest closing prices that we recently had here. So I'm looking higher. I'm looking towards at least 81, and that remains to be the case. So I remain constructive the Aussie USD, but I'm very skeptical of I said since then that I'm considering the possibility that the next high that we're going to get is likely to be at least for a period of time terminal. So if we close to new highs around 81, 81 and a half, 82, and we see a big rejection there, then I'm going to be looking to actually be short, but not yet. Not yet. I think it remains very well bid. The divergence with the Kiwi is very clear as well. We have a huge day in Kiwi today. by the way. And this is not the first time that the Kiwi will have ended up fooling people. I'm saying that because I very clearly remember us saying here in ForexAnalytix that this area, the 68 area, was very critical, and the break below it would open the doors, for a huge move lower. And we penetrated through it, and we did nothing because we started shopping around. The good thing about it is that when you see that, if you have the experience, you immediately know that something is happening. I mean, we did penetrate below it, then we above it, then below it, then above it, then below it, then above it, and then that something is happening, and this level, is not going to produce a huge breakdown. In this case, as well, we crafted a very, very nice head and shoulders formation with a decently clearly defined neckline, which was at 0.72. We followed through for a couple of days, and today we're registering like a huge candle. And
yeah, you gotta say that head and shoulders as people's trap, false breakdown, right, bro?
Very, very likely, although we have to say that it's early in the day, so let's first see how we close today. But I need to stress out here that if we close especially above this zone, the 72.30 zone, this is going to be a false signal here, and this might result, and that's why I went back to this example, this might result to similar price action. I mean, you get a failure of a level that seems extremely important, and then
with no follow through.
With no follow through, and that might actually prove to be a signal that
the other way.
Yeah.
All right, I won't put words in your mouth for a while. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm closely monitoring the Kiwi, because also if that ends up being the case, that also will work very, very nicely for the key Euro Kiwi. I mean, this might also might even lead to an acceleration of the Euro Kiwi lower. So this is one of the reasons I also said that despite the theoretical pattern in play getting hit for 2 pips, I still like this position. I mean, from a technical perspective, it hasn't been broken, but patterns in play are theoretical. We are forced to assign a level, and in this case, it was 2 pips too short. Having to do with the USD CAD and the USD NOK, since people keep asking me because we have been following them closely. Okay, I have to say that theoretically speaking, we have fulfilled my target of one more low that I was talking about since we were there. That I'm expecting to find a bottom, to correct higher, perhaps towards 128, maximum 130, and then register a new low, and then move higher again, and then go again for the lows. So it was quite a complicated plan, but the market has been following it perfectly. So theoretically speaking, we have fulfilled that. I mean, we can reverse from here, go higher, and then go for new lows. So Blake might as well be absolutely right. And Blake's instinct is impeccable. I've seen him call moves that, from a technical perspective, the market doesn't show anything about it. I mean, at the very beginning that we started our friendship with Blake plenty of years ago, sometimes he was telling me, like, I think that's going to happen, and I was like, in my mind I was doubting him, like, where does he see that? I mean, I'm monitoring all aspects of the market, and I don't see that. And it was pure, trader's instinct, and he's more often right than wrong. That's why I'm beginning by saying that my minimum expectations of one more new low has been fulfilled here. From a personal perspective, I would prefer to see an extension target getting hit first, like the 127.2 at 123.14, the 161.8 at just below 122. Before reversing. So my gut still tells me that we might have more weakness ahead before making a bigger correction. Okay, but I wouldn't be shorting here. There's absolutely no question. If you shorted up at 128 that we had clearly said, okay, this is a resistance level, good. You're not going to be shorting here. I mean, there's no point in shorting down here. I can tell you that much. So we're closer to actually be looking for a long if you want to trade counter trend than anything else. There's no question about it. Now the USD NOK as well is telling me that, you know, weakness might not be over, although it hit the 161.8. But I have to tell you that for the time being, this price action here is not really convincing me that it is impulsive. You know what I mean? So, you know, somebody can say it like this, something like this, because still it's immature. I mean, we need more price action to see what kind of a corrective move it is. But I have to say that for the time being, I'm inclined to view it as a corrective move that will produce one more low and then perhaps get this part of the move, like the higher correction. So, you know, these are the scenarios here. Regardless, I wouldn't be shorting once again. I was short, if you remember, I covered. That was the only trade I kept, you know, during my vacation period. And I believe that even if we push one more time lower, then we will have a bigger correction. So it's the same price action with USD CAD. So it's a, you know, it's a replica of that. Okay. They've been trading very nicely with each other. And actually, if you remember, the USD CAD gave us the signal to be short the USD NOK because the USD NOK was lagging actually. So let's go through questions. Okay, my eye immediately fell on copper, and although it wasn't the first question, I'm going to go through that very fast for it because we also talked about the Aussie USD, which is, you know, highly correlated, and you know, this is what I see in copper. I mean, I see a very mature move higher that is clearly impulsive. After an impulsive move, a correction, another impulsive move, and I think that this move is already overdue for a correction before moving higher. So I think that, you know, this is not the place to be long, but we will probably soon get an opportunity to be long lower. So, for example, at a retest of 129.80, 129.50, I think that's an area because we have clearly followed the pattern of from here, impulsive move higher, correction, impulsive move higher. And I actually think the first correction that we're going to see here is more likely than not just part of this impulsive move. It's going to probably be a wave 4 before, you know, before seeing a wave 5 and then a bigger correction lower. So copper obviously remains bullish, but not on the short term. I mean, not on the short term. There is no risk reward to be long in the short term from here. You'd rather wait for an opportunity to correct lower and then try to align yourself with the trend, because as I said, I clearly see a pattern of impulsive moves higher, and, you know, corrective moves lower. So I don't think, I mean, I understand why somebody would want to short, let's say, a very weak close today after an overshoot on the channel, you know, to look for a corrective move lower. But personally, seeing, you know, this kind of strength, I would rather buy it lower. So I'm not looking to be involved with it soon, but I'm tracking it, and, you know, it's in the short term very overblown. There's no question about it.
Euro crude look, buddy. Crude. You have a view on it?
Yes. If you remember, I had a view on it, and I still have a view on it. It wasn't so clear after we broke 49, but what I had said there is that as long as we remain, you know, above this 44.80, the 45 target, yeah. I'm inclined to remain constructive. And we did have a very nice reaction. This candle here was extremely strong. This was an outside white candle, a bullish engulfing, and, you know, we were showing some strength again. But I will reiterate that 49 is critical level. So all that is nice. We have been keeping alive the constructive outlook by holding above 45, but unless the 49 level gets scaled, you know, you cannot be like overly enthusiastic about the long side. But, you know, a close above there for me is confirmation that we're going for 52.
Thank you, bud.
My pleasure. So let's see what we have. Okay, Luca, since we had a look at it, Luca is giving us a view on the Kiwi. So let's see what Luca is looking at the moment. Okay, yeah, he sees this descending trend line, and I agree with you, Luke. I mean, I'm not saying that an invalidation, if we end up having an invalidation of the head and shoulders formation, is immediately a bull sign for the Kiwi. Yes, it's this trend line that somebody can monitor, because, you know, for me, trend lines that have passed only from 2 points here, of course it's 3, but you know, I'm really skeptical. But you know, if I see rejection from here and I see that it coincides with this trend line, then yes, this trend line will prove to me that it's of importance. And then based on that, I will be able to say, you know, that indeed, you know, Kiwi might have broken that, but you know, it remains bearish. So this is the trend line you're looking for, like this one. On the other hand, you know, if you look at it, I'm not going to draw it here. If you look at it, this resistance zone that I have actually in this case coincides with this. So, you know, it's what I said before. For me, it's also closing above this resistance zone. If we do that, in this case, we will also close above your descending trend line. And I agree, that's going to be, you know, that's going to be a rejection after a false move lower that might bring some acceleration for the pair. Euro yen. If I looked at euro yen, no, I haven't, and we can do that now. I wrote analysis yesterday on the euro yen, if I remember right. Okay, listen. 2 things about the euro yen. One, we gapped lower yesterday. Second, we didn't close the gap. Okay, and with today's candle, this looks to be like a runaway gap for the time being. We also faked out some people by breaking above there. We never closed above the high we had registered back here. Never.
That was a pretty good 3 drive up there.
Yep, it was. So I have to tell you that, you know, in the short term, I have no reason to not to be bearish and to look for at least, you know, I had this zone here. It's the 128.70 zone. I think we're going there once again. And I have to tell you that if we retest that zone, I don't know what are the chances that it's going to survive this time are going to be.
Yeah,
especially
Grega has like 29.40, and then I think one more high coming. If that wasn't real old analysis, that's
I can see his viewpoint on that.
Yeah.
From an Elliott wave perspective, I can really see that. But you know, for me, the critical level from a basic technical analysis perspective is a little bit lower. But let's see what's going to happen from here. One thing is for sure, in the short term, it looks bearish, especially given yesterday's gap down and today's continuation without closing the gap. So, you know, it's a dangerous place to be long here.
Okay, I hear you.
USD yen, by the way, since we already started having a look at the yen pairs, I was monitoring this, you know, as a possible descending wedge and the break above it, you know, but all these are just possibilities because, you know, you can draw trend lines from 2 points, you know, in plenty of occasions. So, you know, this didn't prove to be anything of significance. That's why I also had it with intermittent lines.
All trend lines have destiny to be broken.
Yeah, but some of them are only theoretical viewings of shapes and patterns on our brain on a chart until or unless they confirm that they're of significance.
I think they all are. Even if they're significant for a while, they end up losing their significance.
Yeah, but, so I mean, what I'm trying to say is that
I'm jaded.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with trying to plan ahead and seeing possibilities of how a pattern might evolve. And many times when you get the experience, this actually works quite nicely. But you should also keep low expectations when you have too few points that confirm a pattern. So you can draw it as a theoretical possibility, but you know you need to give it the significance that it has, which in many occasions it's low. You know what I mean? Kiwi yen. Sure, let's have a look at it. Kiwi yen, and we have more questions as well about several stuff. So let's have a look at them fast, because you have an interview today, don't you? Okay, Kiwi yen. Listen, Kiwi yen gapped below this, but first of all, we did close the gap. Second of all, I'm still monitoring this very interesting ascending trend line support, which we're still holding. So you know, we're back almost at resistance. 79 for me is resistance, and you know, you have every reason to be bearish as long as we stay below it. But the reaction from here is, you know, quite interesting, and you know, the big bearish break is going to be below 78. So, you know, I wouldn't be short here, I have to tell you, because we have major support below us. If you're already short, I see no reason why you should take profits yet, because you know, we're still registering, you know, lower lows and lower highs. But on the other hand, this is not the place to establish new shorts. So we need a little bit more price action to tell, because you know, this is the situation as I explained before. Let's see what we get from here, but definitely close below 78 is going to be a major bearish development. On the other hand, you know, if we continue higher for another day and you know, we close above 79, it's going to start me thinking that this gap lower was exhaustive here, and I might actually start looking higher. Okay, so we need another couple of days to shape this, you know, this view better. Let me see, we had more questions. Yeah, Euro CAD and CAD Swiss. Yep, let's go. Okay, this is what we were looking there, a push lower and another high at least. We got it. So this actually fulfills the potential of a corrective move as well. So I think there's a good chance that the EuroCAD is going to push lower once again, and my next target is 143.40. I'm not involved anymore. I was short from the break here. This was a very nice trade for me. I got some good profits. I didn't resort it. Perhaps I should have done. These three candles here were extremely appealing, but I have to tell you that in me, I expected, you know, to see, you know, a more confirmed, you know, higher high from here. But these three candles were actually sending warning signals on a resistance area I already had marked. So I think, you know, this gave quite a nice warning, but you know, now it's obviously been done. But I see the potential for a move quite lower from here at 143.20. So I think that the price action points lower here, mate. And CAD Swiss. Let's have a look at CAD Swiss. Okay, I didn't monitor much that because I was on vacations, but I think that you can see the bullish scenario here, because this can easily be interpreted as a triangle, which we actually came down to retest. So this move up was impulsive. This is a triangle. We have retested it. I see no reason why we shouldn't move higher from here. This also coincides with my view in further weakening on the Swiss, and for example, have a look at the Euro Swiss. Despite all we got, etc., it's still consolidating in a very bullish manner, right? Yes.
Yeah, I'd buy that break.
DAX. Oh yeah, thank you. DAX. Let's close with the DAX, because I think the DAX is very important.
Okay.
Okay, DAX is on the precipice of breaking out and becoming bullish again. I had warned about this channel plenty of times. We were monitoring it here, which would have also, if it had broken above here back then, it would have also triggered an inverted head and shoulders pattern. It never did. But we have been retesting it now. We retested it 2 trading days ago, almost retested it yesterday as well. Today we penetrated above it. Now we're back more or less at the trend line resistance. So, you know, this is a major level for the DAX, and especially, you know, a close above, let's call it 12,300, so 12,300, to me is going to be pointing once again higher, perhaps to new highs, which is exactly what we were monitoring in the SPX and the Nasdaq as well. You remember, Dale, that I was very, very cautious about this too, because I said that, listen, for me, these look like bullish patterns, and they have broken above. So I know that many of you are thinking like, oh yeah, North Korea and that and that and that and that. And I'm the first one that has been saying that I'm looking for a top this year, but I cannot ignore the short-term price action. And the short-term price action here, as it does now with the DAX, was telling me that this is, you know, this is a perfectly channeled correction. Mm-hmm. So why not to new highs? Anyhow,
so maybe we get an ABC to 24.45 and then we blast to new highs is kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, and you know something, you know, the argument that this market is stupid is not an argument for being short at any given point, simply because the reasons that this market is stupid that have brought it where they have brought it, for the several reasons, macro reasons and sentiment reasons and psychological reasons we have talked about in the past. This is also, you know, a testament to the fact that it can stay stupid a little bit longer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So why not a new high? I mean, price action. That's what that's what the price action tells me here.
That's what it's implying. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, bro.
Okay, my pleasure.
All right. So
have a nice week, everybody.
I'm a very brave guy that stepped up. Steve Walker is with us now. Steve, thank you so much. I'm going to make you the presenter, and looking forward to hearing your voice. And you could also share your screen if you want to show us anything, including your blog. I've been to it. So face, everyone, welcome Steve Walker. His Twitter handle is Steve Walker 36. Not sure what the 36 stands for. Maybe it's his age. How are you, Steve? Waiting to hear from you. You are now the presenter. So waiting for your volume. There's your screen. Got your screen, Steve. Now waiting to hear you. Let's see. You're not muted. You have to turn your mic on. Why don't I do this?
Dale, Steve is unmuted, so it's obvious he can check if he has chosen the right.
You know what? Sometimes what I do here, Steve, is I become the presenter, and then I give it back to them, and they figure it out. I'm going to do that, Steve.
Okay. Although I see no problem from our side.
Right, I know.
So perhaps he should check and see if he has selected the right microphone from the panel of GoToWebinar.
Okay. Did you hear that? I'm sure you heard that, Steve. I'm taking the screen just for a second, and now I'm going to give it back to you. Now, right now, you're just a panelist, so I should still be able to hear your voice. And now you're the presenter. You got the screenshot option correct, because we saw your chart, just waiting to hear your voice. Yes, Luis, cable could head up towards 130 again, possible third drive up there. I'm glad you're following us on Twitter, Emma. Thank you. Get your vote in on the euro so you can win a t-shirt. Bonds are spiking, of course, with the yen under pressure. That's not a surprise. And DB, great calls on the gold and the 10-year. As being two very critical charts over the last several weeks. Good eye. So still waiting for you, Steve.
Okay, so Dale, I think we have to postpone it until he.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks for trying, Steve. We'll find another place for you. In fact, I'll get in touch with you. I have October 18th just opened up. I mean, September 18th. So we'll be back in touch, and why don't I just grab the screen? Erdogan muted his mic.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So I hope everyone has a great trading day. Just a quick update on my screen here. So the pound is starting to head up here. Pretty good rating in the RSI, so be careful up here at 130 if we're confirming like over 70. And the euro yen, you know, that three drive really worked like right here. And Grega has covers around 29.40, so you're going to want to at least book half. And if Steve's right, you got a runner, because as I showed you earlier, Nick has a bearish shark here, and if we really start breaking down here, it could be a big trade. So
yeah, in this case, it's rare. I mean, it's rare on the fact that it's rare. I disagree with Grega,
yeah,
but my gut tilts me a little bit towards Nick's version.
Yeah, because you know you have an 8x10 autographed copy of Grega Horvat's picture on your desk, so I know it's hard for you.
Him wearing a bikini, of course.
So anyway, while we wrap it, that's a session then, guys. Good hunting the rest of the day. Steve, I'll get a hold of you and we'll find another day. And thank you everyone for being here today. Good luck the rest of the trading day. And we'll be back with you tomorrow. Thank you, Emma, Kareem, DB, thank you. Ash, all you warriors, good hunting. Don't forget, this is your last minute to get your prediction in for the t-shirt. You're welcome, Abdul. And
actually, since the webinar was planned to finish in 18 minutes from now, they have another 18 minutes.
Oh yeah, you have 18 minutes to tweet at ForexAnalytix.
Yeah, you tweet at ForexAnalytix a prediction about how where you think that EURUSD is going to close the week on Friday night, Friday afternoon, wherever you mean, depends on which continent you live in.
And Steve, it's great to have you back. I missed your full-time analysis, and great to have Blake back, and you know, hardly even know Stelios is gone. So just kidding, buddy. So I say he's not gone. I saw his toes today, staring at the Aegean Sea. God, what a beautiful color that ocean is, Steve. That's
indeed. The color is
turquoise.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, warriors. Remember, this is our time. And like Blake said, I think the hedgies are already on their way back from the Hamptons, and they'll be back in full force. So we're going to make hay between here and Thanksgiving when things quiet down again. And thank you very much for all you new subscribers that have come in. Appreciate you supporting us as we support you. And enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Adios. And most of all, you know how I wrap it, my tagline. Don't just count your pips, count your blessings. See everyone tomorrow.